Kakbhushundi arrived under the banyan tree. Before commencing his storytelling session, he prayed most fervently to Sri Ram for equanimity of mind. He was about to describe a very tragic event, and he did not want his emotions to overwhelm him. Then, opening his eyes, he began. Kaikeyi was most alarmed by Mantra's grim description of all that awaited her when Sri Ram became king. Suddenly, feeling vulnerable and alone, she pleaded with Mantra to help her find a solution. And Mantra gave her advice that would bring great devastation to Ayodhya. To begin with, she urged Kaikeyi to express her extreme distress to Raja Dashrath when he visited her that evening. And when the king would try to calm and cajole her, she was to demand the 2 boons he had promised her long years ago. Kaikeyi had never asked for those boons, but now she was to do so. Mantra warned Kaikeyi that these boons were to be spelt out only after the king had sworn upon Sri Ram that he would fulfill his promise. Then he would not be able to go back on his word. Further, Mantra advised the queen the sequence in which the boons were to be demanded. She had thought over everything very carefully. That evening, continued Kakbhushundi, when the king came to Kaikeyi's palace, he was met with an eerie silence. Usually, Kaikeyi would be waiting for him, beautifully dressed and with a smile on her face. But this time he was told that she was in the Kop Bhavan, the distress chamber. It was a special room to which royal ladies would retire when they were angry or upset, so they could give vent to their feelings. With great trepidation, the king made his way to the Kop Bhavan. There he found Kaikeyi lying on the floor, dressed in old coarse garments. Her ornaments had been removed and flung aside. On being asked what was troubling her, she did not answer. The king tried all kinds of ways to coax her to get up and dress nicely, to tell him what the matter was. He got no response. Then he tried to cajole her by saying that he would give her anything she desired. Finally, swearing on Sri Ram, he declared that she should ask him whatever she wanted. He would fulfill her every desire. When Kaikeyi heard the king swear on Sri Ram, she felt that something was now going to be feasible. So she sat up and began to put on her jewelry. Then, feeling somewhat reassured, she reminded the king that once, long years ago, he had promised her 2 boons, and that now she wanted to ask for them. The king burst out laughing and acknowledged that he had indeed offered her 2 boons. He had simply forgotten about them because it was so long ago. He asked her not to hold that against him. And why just 2 boons, he said. She could ask for 4. Then Kakbhushundi quoted the famous words of the king. Raghukula riti sada chali aaye, pran jahu baru bachanu na jaye. It means that the tradition of the descendants of Raghu was to honor their word, even if it meant giving up their life. Raja Dashrath urged his favorite queen to ask what she wanted. He would honor it, for there was no greater sin than untruthfulness. Moreover, the king had pledged his word by invoking the name of Sri Ram, who was as dear to him as life itself. Then Kaikeyi asked for her first boon. Let Bharat be appointed Yuvraj in place of Ram. Then, with folded hands, she asked for the second boon. Banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. Let him depart dressed as a hermit and not as a prince with elephants, horses, chariots, and so on. It was as if lightning had suddenly struck a tree and instantly scorched it. The colour drained from the king's face. Holding his head with both hands, with eyes closed, Raja Dashrath remained completely still. All he could think was that Kaikeyi was going to be the cause of the greatest calamity to befall Ayodhya. And for this to happen at such an auspicious and happy time, what hurt Raja Dashrath was not the appointment of Bharat as Yuvraj, but the thought of Ram's banishment. Ram was loved by everyone. He had never harmed even the smallest creature. Raja Dashrath could simply not understand what had possessed Kaikeyi. After much reasoning and pleading with Kaikeyi, Raja Dashrath declared in a heavy voice that Kaikeyi was not to blame. All that was happening was the result of his past karmas. His time was simply up. But there must be a good reason for this to happen, exclaimed the wise old owl in the audience, voicing the grief of the entire feathered community. That is true, said Kakbhushundi reassuringly. All this was part of Sri Ram's Leela. He wanted to show how following dharma implies making personal sacrifices. Ram's noble father had given his word to Kaikeyi, and he would uphold it despite the grave consequences. And Ram, as his son, would also honor his father's word. Secondly, said Kakbhushundi, Ram wanted to go to the forest to live with the rishis and munis, with the simple jungle folk, with the birds and other creatures, and serve them all. That way, he could show mankind that all beings matter and that compassion and well-being must extend to every creature without exception. Hearing this, there were many flutters of relief. Things are never as bad as they seem, said Kakbhushundi. And even if they appear very painful, something good comes out of them in the end. You see, Raja Dashrath, despite his grief, said one thing very important to Kaikeyi, that even if Ram went to the forest, he would eventually return and Ayodhya would once again flourish. Ram would become king, his glory would spread far and wide, and all the brothers would serve him. Only two tragic things would remain forever unchanged. The stigma against Kaikeyi for having banished Ram to the forest, and the great indescribable grief of Raja Dashrath. Kakbhushundi paused for a few moments, getting a grip on himself. Then he said, Look at us sitting here every evening, listening to the deeds of Sri Ram and learning from them. Would all this have been possible if Ram had remained in Ayodhya? And on that reassuring note, the story session for the day came to an end.